Boston's rental inspection ordinance went into effect September 1st, and the Globe reports that Boston's apartment registry entries have more than doubled in the past few weeks. Here to talk about his campaign against the ordinance and how its aims could be reached in a different way is the executive director of the Small Property Owners Association, Skip Schloming. Skip, thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Skip, we know that there's fears that the law would just come down hard on predatory landlords, wouldn't just come down hard on predatory landlords, but that it'll also burden the more honest, hardworking folks that deserve a break. So how can the law's goals be reached in a different way?
Okay, well, I think the criticism you say, is a valid one from our standpoint. The inspections are covering almost all rental units in Boston, and they're bringing the code, they want to aim to bring all the apartments up to code. And the problem with that is that most apartments just have minor or cosmetic violations. And since the city is using a registration system, only 60% of units have been registered. And we think that the predatory landlords won't be registering. The ones with the significantly unsafe properties simply won't be registering. So the city is stuck trying to figure out how to get those apart from this program. This program doesn't help them get that.
Well, we can come back to that later, but you mentioned some of the cosmetic violations
Sure.
that sound kind of petty. I was looking at your website, and I saw your list, and some of them, I would certainly agree with you, sound kind of petty, and others, maybe to a neutral observer, didn't seem all that petty. So your website says, for example, broken refrigerator shelves,
Right.
towel holder missing bars. I mean, that sure does seem petty.
Yeah.
But then on the same list mentions holes in walls, holes in ceilings, missing doorknobs. That sounds that could be potentially serious. So if you want to address that
Sure.
and some of the others on your list that
Right.
you have.
Well, yeah, let me mention just a few
Sure.
more. And we think these are minor or cosmetic and not a threat to health and safety. And some others are a missing thermostat cover, a missing doorknob, a toll holder bar missing, worn window blinds, stains on hallway and living room ceiling, windows not weather tight, slender gap in basement door, small crack in the ceiling. That gives you a flavor. Okay. And we don't think those are serious violations. And that's what most apartments in Boston will have, minor. There's probably no apartment that's code perfect anywhere, even in private homes. There's, things go wrong and they don't get repaired, and they're usually minor, and that's why they're not, they're tolerated. So we think they've got to figure out some way to target the program to more serious violations, because if I think we'd say 90 to 95% of the apartments are going to fall into this category of having minor violations.
On the subject of targeting, how do you keep from how do you target without getting into some sort of profiling?
That's a good question, because that could be a response. But I would say you'd need to a program needs to be developed to figure out how to target. And I think it needs, again, one effective way we think to do it is to simply drive the streets of Boston and identify code violations on the exterior of buildings. And if those code violations are significant enough, that could be grounds for you to go legally into the building and inside units. But we feel that without a specific known violation in a specific location, it doesn't qualify for a search warrant, which is required under the Constitution.
Okay. Not a lawyer, not a constitutional lawyer. Do you have any court cases that can back you up on that? I mean, I can see that if you're driving by looking at the exterior certainly would help, but there still could be a lot of things that you don't see from there that could be serious violations. So you say it's unconstitutional. Not debatable among us, but do you have any court cases that might eventually help you out on this?
Yes, we definitely do. There is a case in Red Wing, Minnesota, where a similar inspection program is being fought by 9 landlords and 2 tenants. So this is not an issue that divides landlords and tenants, and sometimes this brings them together. And it's being fought, it went to the Minnesota Supreme Court, and it's headed back there again. And if they rule that it's unconstitutional, that will have a national precedent value.
And now, one thing I saw on your website that kind of interested me, Could you explain to us how this hurts lower income neighborhoods?
Sure. Well, the code violations, I mean, this is a characteristic. I'm a sociologist and I have some experience analyzing social issues, and I've brought that to bear on this issue. The code violations, as I said, most apartments are not going to have very many. And it will go according to income level. That's at least a fairly good predictor of where you're going to find it. So most of the more serious code violations are going to be, as well as more minor ones and cosmetic ones, will be found in lower income neighborhoods and in lower income buildings. And that we feel is the best way to target the program. The problem is that those units will not be registered. The city is having everyone registered and requiring it, and $300 fine a month for not registering, but only 60% of the rental units have been registered in Boston at this time.
Okay. Well, the city's trying to do a comprehensive inspection, and if they find problems, then I guess they'll track them more closely. If they don't find problems, they'll be done less frequently. But I guess it's just an inherent tension between something that's targeted and comprehensive that really can't be resolved unless, well, there's a hearing coming up
yes.
next Monday. Tell us about your plans for that. There's the City Council voted 9-4 to approve this. Councilors Baker, Connolly, Linehan, and Ross were against it. Now maybe Councilor Yansley's moving away. What do you expect will happen Monday? What are you looking for?
Well, Monday is a public hearing, and its primary purpose is to hear testimony from the public about their feelings. And the situation is that many Boston landlords have called in to their city councilors as this thing has been rolling out. And it's been quite a steady flow and a heavy flow, so much so that Yancey changed his mind about it. And he, and others have felt compelled to hold a public hearing, which was canceled a week ago and then rescheduled for today, for Monday.
Now, state law authorizes inspection of common areas and exteriors.
Every 5 years.
Yeah. Combining that with the existing complaints-driven system, I mean, anecdotally, we hear that some people you say that good to combine that with just the existing complaints, but anecdotally, we hear that some people are kind of afraid to complain because maybe where they are, in an overcrowded or dangerous place, they've got no better options.
Right.
So what do you do?
Again, well, actually, to get back to that question of how it will affect lower income neighborhoods,
yes.
The problem is, since there are more code violations there and more serious ones, yet the income of the tenants is restricted, the owners are going to be in a pinch to come up with the funds, even to get loans. They might not qualify for loans to do the work that is required to bring those units up to code. We don't think work needs to be done on these minor and cosmetic violations, but we do feel that the safety issues are definitely need to be explored.
Well, thank you very much. From the Small Property Owners Association, Skip Schloming, and we'll have more news in a moment after this message.